I had my children on the floor. I was on my favourite blanket that my grandmother gave me on the floor like a cat.
And I realised in that moment the potential of what our bodies can really do as women.
Like I could feel his head, I could do my own internal, like, yeah, his head, I could feel it.
I was in tears, I was just in tears and overwhelmed with gratitude.
Hi and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast, the podcast that is bringing embodied birth wisdom from women from all over the world sharing their natural birth stories. Don't forget to subscribe and download so that you can always have access to these empowering and positive natural birth stories. Hi, my name is Anna and I am the Natural Birth Podcast host. I'm a former midwife who left the system and I'm now the proud founder of Sacred Birth International, a woman-owned company with a mission to revolutionize the birth world and bring focus to the sacred and the natural intelligence of the birth process. We do this by providing world-class education, courses, programs, and coaching to equip women with the knowledge and the tools to have conscious pregnancies, empowering and positive birth experiences, and the most nourishing start possible for themselves and their babies postpartum. We also educate and mentor aspiring birth workers into sacred space holders and physiological birth advocates in the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship, the Beyond a Doula training. If you'd like to work with me or take any of our courses, programs, or the mentorship, then head on over to sacredbirthinternational.com to find out more. Hi, Tayla, and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast again.
Again, yes.
It's lovely to have you back. You were on, how long ago was it that you were on? 2 years maybe, or 3?
Well, my first baby just turned 2, so it would have been, I don't know, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, because it's pretty close to probably when you birthed last, and then obviously we've been following each other on Instagram, and then all of a sudden there's another Bubba, and here you are to tell us all about it. And we've been trying for a while, obviously, with the time zone difference. It's taken us a while to get here, but I'm so excited to hear about your second birth story. Your first was an unassisted birth with, did you have a doula present for that one?
Yeah, had a doula.
Yeah. And here we are again, and I'm so curious about how this one went. So take us back to, was this pregnancy planned, or how did it unfold for you?
I guess it wasn't not planned. We weren't like actively trying, but we weren't not trying either. So, and kind of didn't expect it because I was only 5 months postpartum when we fell pregnant. So it was quite early, like hadn't even really recovered. And then it was like, oh, and I had a feeling that I was pregnant. And then I did a test because you just, your body, and you come up negative. And I was like, oh, okay. And then because I was like awkwardly getting my period back. So I don't know. It's just such an unusual time of life because you don't really know what's going on. And I was breastfeeding and all the things. So it was just a bit of a blur as to what was really going on. And then a couple of weeks after that, like the suspected pregnancy, I had a range of things happen. I had like spotted. So I was like, oh, am I getting my period back? And then I got some like food poisoning, which is like, I'm pretty prone to food poisoning when I'm pregnant. I've had it like 3 times with each pregnancy. And then I also got thrush as well. And I was like, what is going on? Like, what are all these things happening? And it was like over a few weeks. I was like, it says I'm not pregnant. Like, what is happening? And then I decided to do another test and it was pregnant. And I was like, what? It said I wasn't. And so I felt pregnant for a while, but then wasn't. So it was really confusing.
Well, that's the thing.
And
Sometimes it takes a while to pick up. And also, you might have
yeah,
been so sensitive that you picked it up so early.
yeah,
Especially when you're in that postpartum and you haven't received your full period back. I mean, you
yeah,
can get pregnant before you get your first period, right? Because you'll ovulate
exactly.
first, right?
Yeah,
And so, um, yeah. So it could have been that you just fell pregnant and it was way too early for that test to pick it up.
yeah. But then because I was in such a delicate time, like I was documenting everything, like I know changes in like my body, how I was feeling. And yeah, I was just like trying to figure out what, because I'd never been pregnant, never been postpartum before. So I didn't know what to expect or what was going to happen. And I just wanted to kind of track my, I don't know, bodily symptoms, I suppose, to, yeah, see what my new normal was.
Right. I love that. I love that you did that. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that would have also then alerted you to something that was different pretty early on. When you're
Yeah.
that in tune and when you're checking in so much, because I mean, generally, most people don't do that. Most women don't do that, right? They just, in life, just if they are in a cyclic being, they might still just be like, oh, whoops, today, so here's my period. Right?
Yes.
But when you
Yeah.
really tune in, you notice the subtle differences in your body,
Yeah.
mucus, and your emotional self, and all these different things. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so being so in tune, like you're noticing all the little changes and little things that are going on. So
So
yeah, it
did
was
you have just the little spotting, or did you actually have a period after you got pregnant, or?
I think I got my period back about 3 months after. So I'd had 2 cycles, but again, they weren't like what I was used to. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, is this it back, or is this just I overexerted myself at the gym, or, something like that. Um, and that's what I was trying to figure out. And then I think that would have been my third cycle. But then looking back and trying to work out dates, and I was like, oh, was that just an implantation bleed? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
also, yeah, you just don't know.
You
Don't
just,
really know what's going on
yeah.
and
Yeah.
when.
And, I get this question a lot from women about, after you've had your baby, when will you get your period back?
Yeah.
And for some women like you, it's literally after 2, 3 months. For
Yeah.
some, it can be 1.5 years, 2 years.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so the variation of normal is so broad there.
Yeah.
And even if you are exclusively breastfeeding, I really want to say that
Hmm.
too, because yes, for most who are exclusively breastfeeding, that kind of gives you some protection. It might also, prevent you from getting your period. But for some, that's not true. Like even though you're
Yeah,
breastfeeding exclusively, you're still getting your period back.
that's right.
And all of that is normal. It's just we're all so different. Yeah. But
Yeah.
obviously, if that happens to you and you don't want to get pregnant, then yeah, be
Well,
extra
you always
careful.
should be cautious. Like, never take exclusively breastfeeding as contraception, because it's not.
No.
And like you said, we ovulate and then we get our periods. So
Mm-hmm.
you just will never know.
So your second little Bubba was so ready to come through, hey?
Yep. Yep. She was very keen. They are almost Irish twins. They are 14 months apart.
Wow.
So very, very close. So it
Wow.
was quite a struggle to, be a baby mum and like be pregnant as well. It was like
Yeah.
you couldn't be all in and do all the things, which is happy but sad.
Yeah, of course. Did you notice, like, just physically that it was different, your first pregnancy to your second being so close together? No.
No.
Mm.
I guess I was like kind of waiting for my body to just not reset, but just find its new normal. And it never really got that chance because I was pregnant 5 months later. So, and that's okay. Like, I didn't have a troubled pregnancy for either of them.
Mm.
Loved every minute. Like, I got food poisoning quite often. And I say quite often, like 3 times in 9 months for both. And I got sick, like a cold, quite often as well, which was probably about 3 or 4 times per pregnancy. But that's it. No morning sickness, no extra exhaustion, just, your standard, I've got a baby and I'm pregnant exhaustion. But I don't think it was excessive. I don't think it was whack. We all get our little things, and I didn't get sick. I just got like colds and food poisoning. So yeah,
So
I feel like I was pretty able
so for anyone
most of it.
listening, it's like when you get pregnant, your immunity actually goes down. And that is a part of protecting the baby, for the immunity not
Or the
to
baby takes it all.
and also for your body not to reject your baby. It's like a part of that protection of that. That's why your immunity goes down.
Yeah.
But obviously then you're more prone for sickness
Yeah.
and food
Yeah.
poisoning.
Yeah. And then like some people would never get food poisoning and never get sick, but they might get the morning sickness, daily sickness for a couple of weeks. Yeah. We're all different. So
Yeah, all different.
yeah.
Beautiful. So this time around, did you prepare any differently from the first time, or how did you go about finding the people you wanted to have at your birth, or preparing for the birth journey?
So it was very similar pregnancies, and we were we just wanted to do the same thing because it was just magical the first time, and we're like, we literally wouldn't change a thing, and just kind of stuck with that. So I did hypnobirthing for my first pregnancy, and because this one was so close after, I was like, well, I don't feel the need to do a refresher course or anything. I just had the little hypnobirthing track music that we listened to. We had that we would listen to, but yeah, it definitely wasn't as committed as we were for the first, because we were much busier with the little baby. So we had that teed up. So we were like, yep, we definitely want our doula there again. Like, she was just incredible support. We wanted our photographer, but because it was like I was due mid-January and that's school holidays, she's got a few kids of her own, and she's like, I can't commit. And with her husband's work as well, she's like, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. And so that's a bit like, oh, we kind of really wanted just an extra person there. And so I ended up asking one of my really good friends if she would be our birth photographer. And our first photographer, she had, been to a few births and done a few births. And then, my friend had never done a birth. And I was like, do you want to come? And she's like, yes, I would love to. But again, she has little kids. So it was just hard no one can 100% commit. And I totally get that. And so I actually asked another photographer friend if she would like to come, because I just didn't know who was going to be there and who wasn't, because, it's the unknown. So we ended up having 2 photographers in the end, which was beautiful, and my husband and our doula. And then I had a little short list of friends who had messaged and be like, hey, we've got a 1-year-old. We would love some help. If any of you guys are available at the drop of a hat, we'll send the message out to a few and see, who can make it, just to try and help with Leilana, because she might need some extra. And Brad wanted to be with me. He's stressing out a bit, just wanted to be all in, but we've got a little one, so he couldn't. And so, another friend ended up coming out as well. And she was there, she has little girls too. So she was just there helping out with Lana, which was really beautiful. But it was just, we were nervous the most about who could come and help, because Brad wanted to be with me, and he couldn't stop stressing about that more than the birth itself, I think. And me too, because I didn't want him to stress out about, and I was like, it's going to be fine. Babies do this all the time, because it's just so normal, so natural. And this is my birth cat. She's just joined the conversation.
Black cat. Beautiful.
Yes.
What's her name?
Cleo.
Cleo.
She had babies in our hallway, like the year before I had a baby, and both births she sat with me. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yes, definitely part of it.
Mm. Okay, so the logistics took a lot of prep and a bit of worry from your partner.
Yeah.
Did you get people that you wanted in the end?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It was we have quite a small house, a small lounge room, but yeah, it was a nice vibe. Like the girls all rocked up and I barely even noticed. Everyone just kind of slotted in and just, did their thing. So it was good. Just read the scene, I suppose you'd say.
I love that. So, did you have any early signs of labor approaching for you? And also, what I didn't ask, did you have a wild pregnancy or did you see maternity services at all?
I I did the um ultrasounds because I like doing them. I like to see the baby and you know, I think every woman who's had a miscarriage can maybe agree with that. It's just nice to be able to see everything's tracking along and um yeah, so we did those. I didn't go to the hospital at all for the midwife checkups. I didn't feel it was necessary and I didn't like how I was treated the first time, so I just avoided that situation altogether. I just saw my doctor and he would give me the ultrasound referrals and yeah, that's all we did for that part of it. And I was like so certain that I was going to go early. I was like, these dates are wrong. Like, because like I mentioned earlier with the spotting and the period and trying to figure it all out. And I was just like, these are so wrong. Like, it has to be here because of this test and this date and this. And yeah, I was trying to work it out because, we want to know it is a guess date. What the doctor says or the ultrasound says isn't accurate. Um, And so it got to like New Year's, and I was like, this baby's coming. Like, I'm ready. She's ready, or he's ready. We didn't know. And we were just waiting and no signs. And yeah, then January ended. I was due on January the 18th, which again is a guess, but we were like, okay, cool. That's like, 40-ish weeks. And then February came around and we were like, maybe this month. Like, what is going on down there? And no, she was just too comfortable. She was having a ball. So I didn't really have any signs until a week before we had her. And I started to lose my mucus plug over, yeah, the span of a week. So it'd be like one bit and I'm like run out like, oh my God, look, like we're almost there. Not much longer. And that happened a few times over the week. Still nothing. And then it got to Friday. Yeah, it was a Friday. And we were like, I'm just huge, had a toddler, middle of summer. We're like, what do we do? All right, let's go to the local. We've got 2 sunflower farms near where I live. And we were like, let's go get some sunflowers. We'll stock up the vase because we had the lounge room looking all pretty because we're ready. We're like, got the pool set up. We are ready for this baby. We had it set up like a month prior because we were like, swear she was coming, but no. So we went and stocked up our sunflowers at the local farm. We come back home and it was just, so my partner's got 3 kids from a previous marriage. So the kids weren't with us. They were with their mum. We just had our little one here and we were just out the back tinkering, just chilling out in the heat. And I don't know, it was about 4 p.m. and I felt this like numb, like a buzz kind of thing in my like lower belly. And I didn't think anything of it because, you feel all these niggles and jiggles and you're just like, oh, whatever. And then it took about 15 minutes later and I was like, it kind of had stopped and then it started again. And I was like, oh, okay. That's just feeling a bit funny. I didn't say anything because at this point I was 41 and 5 days or something. So I was almost 42 weeks. So we knew it's happening. And then it was about 6 p.m. and I said to Brad, like, oh, I'm feeling a bit like I've had these kind of crampy sensations on and off. And I'd started a timer around then. And every time I felt it start again, I would hit lap just so I could see, what the time was for these contractions, because that's what they were. And yeah, they were about 15 minutes apart. And so from then I was like, okay, I'll keep timing it so I know if it's getting shorter or not. And I messaged all of my people and I was like, hey, I think I'm starting now. And that morning I'd actually lost a big chunk of mucus again. And I was like, I think I'm starting now. I'll keep you guys in the loop. And we're about 20 minutes drive from all of my friends. One of them was 40 minutes away. So it was just so hard. It was like, do you tell them to come now? We could be days away, or do you tell them not to come and then they miss it? Like, what do you do? And so we ended up just doing normal things, like put Lana to bed, do the things. And I was like, I wasn't in pain, but it was just like that annoying, nummy, crampy feeling in my belly. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is on. Like, let's just like chill, get all the food, the hydration, like get all the things into me that I'm going to need tomorrow, obviously. And we went to bed again, slightly disappointed that we didn't have a baby, but because like every night, when you're so far along, it's like, oh, it's today. And nope, it wasn't today. We slept on the couch for a bit, just trying to get comfortable. And then I think it was about midnight, I got up and went into bed and tried to lay down. But at this point, it's super uncomfortable and really hard to lay down and be comfortable. So I was in bed for about an hour and a half. And then I got back up, went to the couch and just stayed there. And I was still timing and it was like 5 minutes apart. And I ended up messaging all of my people at around, I think it was about 3:30 a.m. And I was like, I think like we're ramping up now. It was slowly getting to about 3-minute contractions from start to the start of the next one. And I was just like getting really uncomfortable. So I'm like, I think I'm just going to get in the pool now. Like, let's fill it up. Let's just fill it up. Let's do it. I'm going to get in. So I messaged the girls, and I think by 5 a.m, my photographer had rocked up, 5:30, my doula, and then 6, the other photographer and my friend. And by then I was in the pool. I got in the pool about 5:30. And so Leanne, my photographer, she was just setting up doing her thing. And I was just in the pool. I think Lana woke up at about 6:30. And yeah, by 7:20, we'd had this baby. So it was a much shorter, I don't even know when I was in like the transition. Like the whole time I'm always feeling like, let's just get this done because this is really uncomfortable. But I was only in the pool for like 2 hours. My first birth, I was in the pool for 8 hours. So, but I guess I labored more just on the couch there. So nothing really, yeah, it wasn't hectic at all. I was in my head a lot, just, doing the things. I tried to be more vocal this time because my first, I didn't, like, no one knew what was going on because I was just like, Whereas this time I was like trying to communicate with Brad, and because he's like, I don't know what's happening. Like, you didn't say anything. You just look like you were peaceful sleeping. So yeah, this time I tried to communicate more, and yeah. And then I actually ended up laboring kind of like sitting up on my back a lot. And my doula, she was there, and she's like, it's happening. I was like, how do you know? It's like she read my mind as to what was going on. And she's like, I can just tell by your belly, like the way I don't know how it looked. I had my eyes closed for a lot of it. And yeah, so Queenie came out, her head came out and she was there and I could just feel her like wriggling around. And then we're just waiting for another contraction to let her come out. Like I didn't push at all. Then she came out again and she stopped about halfway. And I was like, come on, kid. Like after the head, you're supposed to just slide out. And no, that didn't happen. Um, and yeah, so she was just lingering half in, half out for what felt like so many minutes. And we were just all there, like waiting for this next contraction for her to come out. Because, you know, you don't want to push, you don't want to rip her out. Hannah, my doula, was like helping to unravel the cord because it was like just wrapped around her arm. And I was like barely with it. I was just like so in the zone. Like she had to tell me to open my eyes. She's like, have a look. So I was just like, oh, let's do this. And yeah, both Brad and I remember looking down at her and she's just got her eyes open and she's just like, you know, wading in the water, like staring at us. It was so beautiful. And yeah, next contraction out she comes and pick her up and there she is. Cord still in there, attached, placenta there. And yeah, she just was just perfect. Like, I don't know how it can get any better. It was amazing. And then I think, I don't know, half an hour to an hour later, the placenta came out. I tried to kneel up and, you know, kind of wait, stand up, and then ended up just going onto the toilet again, put a bowl in the toilet and just sat there and just waited, just holding her. And yeah, once that came out, I gave baby and placenta to Brad and I jumped in the shower. And yeah, for this birth, we decided to have a lotus birth. So we did not cut the cord. We left the placenta attached. We took a breath and grounded for a bit. And then, yeah, had to wash off the placenta and do all the herbs and the salt and put it in the pretty bowl. And yeah, waited for that to fall off in its own time.
What kind of herbs did you use and how many days did it take for the umbilical cord to fall off?
So I bought a little lotus birth herb pack from Blissful Herbs, which I don't actually know what was in it. I didn't even read what was in it. I was not in that zone, but she's done it so many times. So she's made up all the best little things. And I just bought like a big bag of Himalayan pink salt or something and just like a normal white salt as well and just mixed it all and just like layered it. And I did it a few times because the placenta is so moist and obviously it's like a live organ. So you don't want it to smell. And so it's super important to use the herbs and the salt. And I think I've got it in my phone. I think it was like day 3. It came off, which from what I have heard is like quite quick. And we're wondering if that's because like the first day was okay because the cord was still soft. But then once it like had dried up all the way to her belly button, it was like quite awkward to hold her and like trying to breastfeed. And she was a very challenging breastfeeder. So I had to do like the football hold. So she's over here and I've got this cord and all the things. So I think it fell off quicker because of, you know, the extra movement and it's this long thing attached. But no, it didn't stink at all. It was, yeah, I loved it. It was so special.
Beautiful. No, it's quite common actually with lotus birth that the umbilical cord falls off quicker than if it's cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if it's
interesting.
burned as well. Yeah, it tends to be that doing lotus birth 2 to 3 days is quite common. Of course, it can be up to even like a week or even longer, but that's more
Yeah.
rare. More common is the shorter, and
Yeah.
burning then it's like in between, and then cutting with scissors is usually the longest for the little stump then if you have cut it or burnt it to fall off. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's quite curious that that's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's why there's a lot more to deal with. So it's gets a lot more movement than the little stump would.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe, I mean, obviously doing lotus birth, there's this whole spiritual aspect to it of, in a sense, allowing the baby to detach once the baby's ready is, one way of
Yes.
seeing it, right? And that as the baby has this connection still to its placenta, which in so many cultures is seen as guardian angel or a twin or, fill in the blank. That spiritually it's maybe ready sooner to let that go as well, as it's
Yeah.
never been detached.
Allowing it its own time
Yeah.
rather than trying to hurry it up.
And did you do something special once it did detach?
We did. I actually just let it sit in the bowl for probably a month because I was too busy to even think about it. But lucky it was preserved. And I ended up washing it off and planting it under a little cherry tree.
Oh, gorgeous. On your piece
Yeah.
of land or?
Yeah, so we put it in a really big pot because we know this isn't our forever home and we don't want to leave the cherry tree.
Yeah, I get that.
So it's in a pot so we can bring it with us.
I love that. That's beautiful. Did you do that with your first bub as well?
No, for my first, I got the placenta encapsulated
Mm.
and made into a tincture. So that was, yeah, what I decided then. And then I learnt more about energy and the placenta itself. And I was like,
Yeah,
I don't think I want to encapsulate this one.
yeah.
I want to give it back to the earth. So that's what we did. Well, kind of in a pot.
Yeah. It just, well, obviously this is just what I feel, but I just feel so primal and natural and true to me to do that. And
Yeah.
I love what I learned about the Indigenous of Australia who bury it, and there's this idea that when the girl has her first bleed and it lands on the earth, and the boy has his first seed and it lands on the earth, it activates the blueprint of the placenta buried in the earth.
Yeah. Okay.
And ever since I heard that, it just felt so true to me, just rings so true, that connection.
Yeah.
And yeah, it feels very, very true and natural to give it a resting place within the earth where you're born.
Yeah. So actually I forgot to mention this, but I was laying on the couch and it was like that 3:30 time and I had this dream and I was like where's my cat? My birth cat, my birth buddy. And I just it was in my dream and I woke up and I was like, where is she? And I looked down and she just jumped up onto my lap and here she is again.
Yeah.
She just jumped up onto my lap and I was like, oh my gosh, Cleo's here. Like it must be time. So that was kind of part of my reasoning to message everyone and be like, okay, it's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Hey.
I love what you said about how your doula could see, and that's the thing, when you're an experienced birth worker, you can see obviously how the belly's changing and the womb is contracting,
Yeah.
because that's what's happening as you go through labor, however long or short, you can see the belly getting tighter and tighter and smaller actually, like because it's pressing the baby down, and eventually,
Yeah.
some women, obviously the skinnier or the easier it is to see the shape of the uterus and what's happening, right? And so you can really see it, like it's just the womb. Like it's just
Yeah.
the
It's so
womb, so
incredible.
contracted and pointy and like tight, and because that's what's happening every time you have a contraction. The muscle fibers are contracting down and then they don't fully release, so they continue to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until it's time to push the baby out, literally, with it's pulled itself up to be this fat on top. It's called the fundus, the top of the uterus. And it just goes, presses the baby down. It's incredible. So did you feel that shift happening for you as you went from the contracting to the bearing down energy, or was it just feeling like the same the whole way through? You never really mentioned that there was a shift there. Did you feel that shift?
Not so much that shift, but I could feel her traveling through again, and like I was trying to vocalize that to the people, the people there. But yeah, I could definitely feel everything. I think because I was just so in tune, I was just in the zone and aware of like what is supposed to be happening, what is happening, and just trusting my body that like I was born to do this. Like, don't let anyone tell you that you're not, because this is how we do it. And
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being anywhere else with like interference and stuff. Like I was just so chill, so happy. It was just happening. And yeah, it definitely has the uncomfortable aspects of it, but oh my gosh, it is just amazing. Just that feeling like I'm having a baby right now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. And, I think you said something about how, this was much shorter than your first, which is so normal as well, right? When you've opened the channel, you've done it once, and especially being so close to your first birth, your body's
Yeah.
just ready. Your body's just ready to have that baby much quicker.
But in saying that, the contractions started at about 4 p.m. and I had her at 7 a.m. the next day. So it wasn't really shorter. I was just in the pool for a shorter amount of time, which I think is from when in my mind I'm like, okay, like let's go. But then maybe my first, I just got excited too early, and maybe that's why I was in there for 8 hours instead of this one I was in there for 2.
Yeah,
So I don't know. But yeah, I guess they were about the same, but then a different experience because with my first, my water broke outside at like 9 p.m. So that's why we kind of got in the pool. Because we were like, okay, it's definitely happening. Whereas for the second, I was in the pool and we all heard the water break, actually. I forgot to mention that. I'm there and it was just like, we were all like, oh, that's the water. And then, there was some extra floaties in the pool, but baby was coming. So then that, yeah, well, that shows. So from 4 p.m., water didn't break till what, 6 a.m. And then we had a baby an hour later.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all look so differently, and yeah, same outcome. It was, yeah, magic. Magic.
And you got another little girl. What's her name?
I did. Queenie.
Oh,
Queenie is her name. Queenie Bloom.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yes.
Little Queenie. Little queen.
Yes, Queenie.
Beautiful. Was there something that was, something that you felt was different with this labor and birth that you learned? Something different about yourself or about the birth process, or something you're taking away from this birth?
Not really. I feel like they were both very similar pregnancies, very similar births. Just, I don't know, I guess I was even more trusting of my body come the second one because I did it for my first. Like I did it all by myself. We are taught our entire lives that we can't do it. And I did it for the first baby. Like we can definitely do it. And that just like, I don't know, I suppose lit my fire as to tell more women that you can do it. Like you don't need anyone to tell you can't, because you can. Absolutely you can. And I don't know, it's just, I think for our generation, it's unlearning what we've all been, or what has been ingrained into us, and through Hollywood and everyone above us is like stories where they needed all these different things, and it's like, no, we are the generation to take our power back and prove it to our little babies that we don't need anyone else.
Beautiful. So this time around, when did you get your period back?
Oh, see, what am I, 9 months postpartum? I think it was about the same. No, maybe about at 5 months. But I've only had, yeah, 4 or 5 cycles. But I wasn't sure again because I was like, oh, did I overexert myself again too early? You're still healing, and the 6-week healing period isn't set in stone. It's just like a blanket average for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's just, listening to your body and if you're feeling ready for it or not. But yeah, I'd say I think I'm back to like a regular cycle. So
Yeah.
had about 4 or 5 cycles now. So month 4 or 5, it came back, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very soon. You just want to like have a little break, but no, that's okay.
It is a lot having 2 little babies and having your cycle back for sure. It's definitely a lot, but I think it also goes to show that you're a powerful woman who can handle all of that at once.
Yes. And not only the cycle, it's like the hormones, everything trying to balance out and create your new normal, because we don't even know, like, I don't even know who that is. I don't know who I am. I don't know
Absolutely.
what is me. I'm still trying to learn that right now.
Yeah. When you're pregnant, your brain starts to change, and it takes 2 years postpartum for your brain to continue to change. So, and you've done it twice now here, and you are changing, right? It's actually physically happening. So when women say, I don't know who I am, it's true. Like, you don't, like, your brain has actually shifted and changed, and it's continuing to change. And that's why it's so amazing also to be very conscious about what you want to feed your brain with throughout these 3 years of pregnancy and postpartum. Obviously, you're tuning into your baby and becoming super mom, so highly in tune to your baby and its needs. But you can also choose to feed it with other things, right? And who do you want to have in your life? Friends, family, influences. What do you want to feed your mind with? You can consciously choose that, and it's really powerful. And you are kind of reimagining your personality, like you are, which is so incredible, amazing. I mean, I think it's a gift. It's been taught to us that we have baby brain and that it's a negative. I don't think it is, and that you can definitely use it to your benefit about what you want to feed your mind with. I mean, I have many people who take the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship when they're postpartum, feeding their minds that year with that, wanting to go into birth work or serving women, right? It's amazing what you can do and choose to do consciously with year and years postpartum.
Definitely. Yeah. Surrounding yourself with the right things, people, food.
Yeah.
So important.
So if you had a first-time mama in front of you right now who's about to have her first baby, what advice and pearls of wisdoms would you give to her?
Just surrender and trust the process. It is so important to trust yourself. Like, you were made for this. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not, because you are. We all are.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts already now, trusting yourself, like before pregnancy, in pregnancy, to have that trust throughout the labor and birth process, you need to actively like cultivate that relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that just happens overnight. Like,
no.
Really honing in on how can I strengthen that relationship to myself, my inner voice, my intuition.
Yes. Tune into your body, listen to your body. Don't ignore the things, like really try and connect so you can have this conscious relationship with yourself to be able to trust yourself deeper, ready for your baby to come into this world.
Yeah. I mean, this is also something that just as the birth narrative, we have to like reprogram. We also have to reprogram this, like claiming actually sovereignty over ourselves, our lives, trusting that I am the expert of me, of my life, and
Yep.
ultimately here, you know, pregnancy, your baby, your birth. But like, it's something that we need to actually claim back, because it's also something we've outsourced unconsciously, subconsciously. It's just something that we've been taught, right? Listen
Yeah.
to your parents, listen to your teachers, listen to the doctor, listen to fill in the blank, right? It's very deeply ingrained. So actually to trust ourselves is a big deal for most women. It's not easy to do. Like, you have to practice it and
Yeah.
every day, and like not just outsource by default, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Anything else you want to share before we round this off, Tayla?
I don't think so. I think, yeah, that it was just peaceful, simple, natural birth as it should be.
And I love that. You know, we need more stories of this everyday miracle. Like, it can be.
Yep.
For some
Yep.
women, like yourself, you know, it's simple.
Yeah. It would be simple for most people, I think.
Mm.
They take their power back. We can do it. We can
Yeah.
share the message.
I love that. Thank you for sharing your beautiful birth stories with us. If anyone wants to hear your first one, then I'll link it down below in the show notes for them to listen to that one as well. Thank you,
Perfect.
Tayla. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as The Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.